Hey guys, it's Jess and I'm coming back to you today with another video, and I wanted to tell you guys a story. Normally I would do this as like a prayer and gratitude journaling spread, but I realized I don't really know how I would do a layout on this. So I'm just gonna come in front of the camera and just tell you guys the story. So before I get into the story, I need you guys to kind of know me, because I feel like I give you guys project life spreads and I do like plan with me's and things, but I don't know if you guys know like my life, like my general life. So I am originally from North Carolina, which is why there's a lot of Tar Heel stuff on my channel. But and I went to school at UNC, that's why. But I am originally from North Carolina, and I moved up here to DC. I actually live in Maryland now, but it's like the DC general area. I moved up here like 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, and I didn't move up here for any particular reason other than to develop my career. I thought there'd be more opportunities up here for me in DC versus North Carolina. I needed you guys to know that before I got into the story. So let's get into the story. So a couple of days ago, I was in DC, like actually in DC. I went to a happy hour with a few friends and I ordered a Lyft. I don't believe in Uber. That's another story. But I ordered a Lyft and I got into the car, and I noticed before I got into the car, I noticed that my Lyft driver had South Carolina plates, license plates. So when I got in, I made small talk with him like, "Oh, I see you have South Carolina plates. Are you from South Carolina?" And he goes, "Yeah, I moved up here a week ago." And I was like, "A week ago? That's very recent." So I asked him what brings him to the area. He told me that he had this very long story, but in essence, the story was he got laid off from his job in a factory in South Carolina, and he has family in the area, and so he moved up here to just be closer to his family and to find another job. And he quickly realized that there aren't many factory jobs in DC, but he's still remaining optimistic, and he even said that he had a plan to go back to school and to learn IT, and so maybe he can get a job in the IT field up here. And I'm paraphrasing, but the way he told the story was just very hopeful and very optimistic, and it was really amazing just to listen to this guy's story. He had to be like early, like mid 40s to early 50s, I would say. So for him to say that he's going back to school and just basically restarting his life all over again was very inspiring to me, because literally that day that I went to happy hour and had this conversation with this guy, earlier that day I was at work and I was basically contemplating my life and my job and my career, and just I don't know, every now and then I get into these existential moments with myself and just try to figure out what I'm doing here and what's my purpose for just not even just my career, but what's my purpose in life. And so I was just sitting there thinking about that, and then all of a sudden later on that day I'm having this conversation with this Lyft driver about and how he basically has to restart his life all over again because he got laid off from his job and there are no other jobs that match his skill set. It was just very interesting to just listen to this guy's story and to put it into perspective with my life. I feel like I get very complacent very easily, and I take a lot of things for granted. So sometimes, and just even in general, I feel like I take friendships for granted. I take my family for granted, my career, where I live, and just relationships in general. You know, I tend to take them for granted, and I feel like overall, like, we as people take things for granted when we become complacent, and that's kind of a dangerous spot to be in, because you don't realize, I know it sounds cliche, but you don't realize what you have until it's gone. And you know, there are family members that I feel like I've taken family members for granted. I've taken friendships for granted, and it's not until you realize that you are in a different spot in life, or you're in a situation where you can't talk to them anymore, or you don't have the same relationship that you did when you did take them for granted, you know, or when you were complacent with them, that you don't fully realize the impact of it. I'll give you an example. So when I was younger, and this was when I was really, really younger, but my grandma got sick and ended up like having to go to the hospital. And I remember visiting her in the hospital, and this was like when I was like 9. Like I was very young, but I remember getting into a habit of visiting her in the hospital so much that it got to a point where I just got tired of being in the hospital, you know? So it was kind of this thing where it was like, yeah, we got to go visit grandma in the hospital, but you know, like, what are we doing after this, you know? I mean, and I'm a kid. It's not like I had any say in what we were doing after that, or how long it took us to leave the hospital. But, you know, I remember being there in her hospital room, literally becoming impatient that we couldn't leave, you know? And she passed away, and now it's one of those things where I wish I wasn't so impatient with her. Now I'm starting to cry. I'm sorry, guys. So when you become complacent with things, it's almost like you kind of lose a sense of emotion, and you lose like that sentimental factor with it. I don't know. I like I said, it's like you kind of take things for granted, and you take relationships for granted. It's very important to kind of take a step back and realize what's important, you know, and to take a step back and realize, am I taking something for granted, or is this actually, you know, harmful to me? I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I want you guys to just be encouraged, and I always try to preach gratitude on here, and just preach, you know, just appreciation for the things and the people in your life, because, you know, you never know when it's time, like when their time is up. You never know when your time is up, honestly. I became very complacent when I moved out of North Carolina. I didn't really care to be in North Carolina anymore. And like I said, I didn't have any kids. I didn't really have any real commitments in North Carolina. So I ended up just moving to DC. But now that I'm here, I'm realizing that, and when I moved to DC, my entire family, you know, stayed in North Carolina. And I feel like now I'm at a point where I miss my family, and it's not as easy as hopping in the car and driving to see them, you know, when I want to see them, you know, without it being a 7-hour drive. Or, you know, I can get on a plane, but planes cost money. Planes cost a lot of money. But it's hard, you know, it's very hard to see them now. And it's one of the things where, you know, back then in the moment, I took it for granted. I took the whole point of them being so close to me, I took that as kind of like a negative. And, you know, I became almost cynical in a sense of, you know, you guys are too close to me. But now it's one of those things where it's like, I relish the opportunity to go see them. You know, I relish the opportunity to, you know, like just hang out with all of them. And, you know, I can't do that at this very moment, you know. That's my encouragement for you guys today. You know, you never know when someone's time is up. You never know when, you know, your life is going to just change and get turned upside down. So, you know, try not to take people and try not to take things for granted. Even with your job, you know, like I'm a millennial, so I know how hard it is to stay in a job and actually love it. But, you know, I'm grateful for the fact that I even have a job. You know, going back to my Lyft driver, I could be laid off tomorrow, and then what? I hope that you just learn to appreciate, you know, the people in your life, the things in your life. Life is short. Even that person, you never know when that person that you take for granted is going to leave your life. You don't know when you're leaving, you know? You know, just stay encouraged. Try not to take people and things for granted. I know it's hard, but just try not to take people for granted, because it's gonna be even worse to look back and realize that you're gone, realize that they're gone, and then what can you do? Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Stay positive and I will see you in the next video. Bye.